They saw a quiet veteran, a big guy with tattoos and a shaved head, just looking for a simple job. What they didn't see was a finely tuned machine, forged in the fires of combat, who'd built a quiet fortune and knew how to fight. Peter, the town's richest man, and his trophy wife, Karen, thought they could exploit me, a struggling disabled veteran, as he so smugly put it, for cheap labor. They stole my time, my dignity, and my money. But what they didn't know was that pushing a soldier to their limit isn't just a bad idea, it's an invitation to war. And when I went to war, I didn't just win. I atom-bombed their entire empire. If you've ever been underestimated, exploited, or had your integrity questioned, hit that subscribe button right now. Like this video, and tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying moment you've ever had watching karma come for someone who truly deserved it? This isn't just a story about a paycheck. It's about a veteran's unwavering resolve and the sweet symphony of justice. Let's dive in. My life took an unconventional path. I joined the military straight out of high school, a mechanic by trade, drawn by the sign-on bonus and a love for working with my hands. While most guys my age were splurging, I was stacking cash. Basic training, advanced MOS training, deployments, I lived simply investing every spare cent Bitcoin, the stock market, even paying off my parents' house. By the time I discharged, even after a nasty divorce that forced me to cash out and split a good chunk of my portfolio, I was comfortable. Not stupid rich, but certainly financially secure. I loved the work, so I bounced around, a skilled mechanic who could make money anywhere just keeping busy. After a decade of this transient lifestyle, I craved stillness. A small, quiet town called to me. I bought a modest house, yearning for the simple pleasure of working on my own hotrod instead of everyone else's. Then, a help-wanted sign at the local lube shop caught my eye. Simple work, low stress, just enough to cover my few expenses. Perfect. I strode into the office for an application, immediately feeling the stares of the townies. At 6 feet 3 inches, with long hair, a full sleeve of tattoos, and a beard I'd cultivated since discharge, I looked imposing. Most people tended to cross the street to avoid walking past me. The bookkeeper, a woman I'll call Sue, took my application. She noted I was a veteran, scribbled a Y on the form, and later that day called me back. The owner, Peter, wanted to meet me. I arrived, and Peter's eyes bulged when he first saw me. But my southern charm, surprisingly, won him over. He tossed me a calendar of his car collection. Mustangs, a Ford GT, a Judge, a Demon, a Pantera, and then a Bricklin SV1 and an MXD. I called them out, impressing him with my knowledge of the obscure SV1. We chatted cars and he offered me the job. $100 a day, Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., no overtime. The kicker? I'd get a full day's pay even if we closed early. Sundays, and one other weekday off. Sounded like a sweet deal. For about a year, it was smooth sailing. Then Peter asked for a favor, be a relief worker for his other lube shops in neighboring towns. He offered an extra $20 a day for travel, simply covering for guys on their days off. I agreed. Did it for another year, no complaints. Then, disaster.
Peter met Karen.
He fell madly in love in a month. They were married, and almost instantly, he started funding her growing gambling problem. This, my friends, is when the nightmare truly began. One week, my paycheck was $250. Not the $600 I expected. I asked Sue. She deflected, told me to talk to Peter. I called him, and he showed up with Karen in tow. When I questioned the short pay, he mumbled something about bad weather and early closures affecting business. I might have let it go. Peter had been a good guy. But Karen, with her shark eyes and sharper tongue, piped up. Isn't very fair to us to have to pay you for a full day if you don't work the full 10 hours. My blood ran cold. That would be true, I stated, my voice calm but firm, if I wasn't on a negotiated day rate. I get paid for each day I work, not hourly. That's why I don't get 19 hours of overtime each week. She scoffed, declaring, that's not how it works anymore. From now on, you'll be paid for the hours you work and nothing else. I bit my tongue. Whatever you say, Karen. The next week was a whirlwind. We had days of furious business, staying open hours later to finish with waiting customers. I even gave up one of my days off to cover for a sick coworker. My paycheck should have been easily over $800. Instead, it was $600. I called Peter again, demanding an explanation. He just repeated, "Well, that's what we agreed on, $100 a day." I stared blankly. "Did you forget about last week?" I reminded him of the extra hours, the sacrifice day off. He just shrugged. "It is what it is." At this point, my aggravation was a slow burn. Then Karen walked in, her voice dripping with condescension. "So, what is he bitching about now?" I turned, my gaze colder than Arctic ice. "I worked 80 hours last week, and you only paid me $600. She sneered. "You're contracted labor, and you agreed to $100 per day, so why would we pay you more than that?" I looked at Peter, searching for a glimmer of decency. He just averted his eyes. "You heard the lady." I went home, trying to rationalize it. "It's just simple work. It covers my few expenses. What else is there in this small town? Assembling sheds? Slinging chickens?" I told myself it wasn't worth the fight. This charade continued for another year. Karen's venom grew. One week, she was screaming at a coworker in front of customers, accusing him of an OSHA violation for wearing tinted safety glasses. It was pure BS. The sun glare in the bays was brutal. I shook my head, walking in, and like a T-Rex in a dinosaur movie, the movement caught Karen's attention. "You got something to say, you big bitch?" she shrieked. I just kept walking, my jaw clenched. I warned Sue, the bookkeeper, that Karen's mouth was writing checks Peter couldn't cash. Sue just threw up her hands. "I just keep the books, don't involve me." I was at my limit. The day I started my malicious compliance was already shrouded in grief. I woke up to the devastating news that a good friend, the man responsible for me surviving being blown up in Iraq, had been killed by a drunk driver. I wanted to be alone, to grieve. I told the shop I'd work the pit all day, to just let me be. My coworkers, who knew me well, understood something was deeply wrong. I never imagined Karen would find me at the furthest shop, in the opposite direction of the casinos she frequented. But she did. Peter and Karen stormed in, and she immediately shrieked, "Peter, come look at this mess." I had no idea what she was talking about. I kept my pit spotless, cleaning as I worked. Her complaint? 50 of the most common oil filters, neatly stacked on my waste drums for easy access. I did this all the time. Peter knew, and he'd never cared. Now, he came down into the pit, looking around like he was inspecting a pigsty, and told me, his voice dripping with condescension, "Clean up this pigsty." I looked him dead in the eye, shaking my head. "Today's not the day, Peter. Move on. Take her with you." This, of course, infuriated Karen. She saw it as the utmost disrespect. Peter, puffed up by her fury, snapped, "If you don't like it, you're free to leave." I didn't hesitate. I walked out. Now, don't freak out. This story is far from over. That was just the first flap of the butterfly's wings, setting in motion a monumental shitstorm. The very next day, Peter called, asking me to swing by the main store on my way home. I thought maybe he's going to apologize. Maybe one of the guys told him why I was so on edge. No, that was not what this was about. Peter called me in to inform me that for the next 6 months, I would be on probation for my actions. During this time, I would only be paid $50 a day, and I wouldn't receive the $20 daily travel allowance for working at other shops. I looked at him, disbelief warring with a rising fury. "Are you serious about this, Peter? Have you seriously considered what you're doing?" This is when Peter's true colors and Karen's influence shone through. "You're lucky I wasn't fired for your constant disrespect towards me and the co-owner, Karen," he spat. "If I didn't pity you for being a struggling, disabled veteran, I had never, ever discussed my finances with anyone." Peter's assumption that I was broke and desperate was based solely on my appearance, my tattoos, my beard, his narrow-minded prejudice. He continued, "I would have fired you long ago." Something inside me snapped. I didn't get angry. I just started to laugh. He asked me what I found so funny. I stood to my full 6 feet 3 inches height, stepped toward him like a drill sergeant about to deliver wall-to-wall counseling. My voice was low, laced with steel. You should reconsider your life choices, Peter, and who you choose to go into business with. He scoffed. What, you gonna sue me or something? Go ahead if you think you can afford to. What do you get from the VA? Like $1,000 a month. I know how bad you need this job. That wasn't my original plan, but his words, that arrogant, ignorant dismissal, were the final spark. My military training, my soldier's instinct to go to war, kicked in. That day, I called a labor lawyer, paid the $3,000 retainer, and initiated a lawsuit for unsafe work environment, unpaid overtime, and minimum wage violations. All while continuing to work for him, taking that measly $50 a day. It was glorious, but still not enough. It took about 6 months of my probation for the lawyer, a former Marine, to gather all the paperwork and file it. I'd asked him to slow roll it, and I think he instinctively understood what I had in mind. Once everything was meticulously ready, my lawyer filed the paperwork. Peter and Karen were served at the main store, right in front of me, while I was at work. My lawyer's process server, strategically, stuck around as a witness. They read the papers. Their faces contorted in rage. Peter roared, "I should kick your ass, you ungrateful piece of shit." Karen shrieked, "You're ing fired, you pussy. I bet you weren't even really in the military." The process server recorded every glorious second. He handed the recording to my lawyer, who promptly added unlawful termination to the lawsuit. It's illegal to fire an employee for suing you. The very next day, I opened up my own lube shop and car wash combo. I started recruiting my former coworkers, offering them higher pay plus commission. They jumped at the chance, eager to join the lawsuit. My lawyer was more than happy to add them. 2 years dragged by. Subpoenas for security footage, their financial books going back 5 years, sworn testimonies, the legal machine ground slowly, deliberately. Finally, we went to mediation. Their offer? A measly $50,000 to split among the 15 of us. It barely covered the unpaid overtime, let alone the psychological toll. We declined. Then, our Apache helicopter arrived to save the day. A package, sent by the IRS, delivered directly to my lawyer. Peter, in his infinite greed, held each lube shop as its own individual LLC, each with its own tax ID and employment record. And in a stroke of breathtaking stupidity, Peter and Karen thought it would be clever to file for a tax credit for employing a veteran at each of the 6 shops. In their filing, they claimed they employed me as a full-time employee, working a minimum of 36 hours a week at a rate of $12 per hour. The government gives tax breaks to companies that employ veterans. At the next mediation, my lawyer presented these IRS reports to their lawyer and the mediator. After a swift 20-minute discussion, Peter and Karen returned, their faces ashen. They agreed to settle at our full request, $400,000 in unpaid overtime to be split among the 15 of us, all our legal fees covered, and a personal settlement of $20,000 for each shop I was listed as an employee after the unlawful termination suit, plus the unpaid wages for the 6 months I was only paid $5 an hour. Their only demand? A gag order, so nothing would leave the mediator's table. Of course, we signed. We took our paychecks. But somehow, their incriminating tax paperwork made its way to just the right person at the IRS. An investigation for tax fraud was opened on Peter and Karen. I sold the shop I'd opened to the guys who joined the lawsuit. They each paid me $8,000, and I washed my hands of it. I put my house up for sale and moved away, seeking my quiet life once more. About 8 months later, I had to return. The guy I'd hired to maintain the lawn had been arrested, and the city was threatening a $100 a day fine for the overgrown yard. While there, I decided to check in with my realtor. And who did I see, sitting pretty at the front desk? Little old Sue. Sue couldn't speak fast enough, giddy with the news. What I thought was an Apache had turned out to be an atom bomb. Peter had filed for bankruptcy to avoid going broke after making a plea deal for probation for tax fraud and paying a fortune in unpaid back taxes. Karen, predictably, had taken off with some dude she met at a casino. I asked Sue 2 questions. Did she know who reported the fraudulent tax paperwork to the IRS, and what happened to Peter's car collection? She told me she had no idea about the IRS, but to check the parking lot behind the realtor's office before leaving. On my way out, I glanced back. There it was, a safety green Bricklin SV, one sitting forlornly. Apparently, Peter had started selling off his beloved cars early and cheap, foolishly hoping to buy them back after filing bankruptcy. To this day, I have no idea who, if anyone, actually turned in that paperwork to the IRS. My personal theory? Whoever was tasked with compiling his absurd tax claims noticed something strange and simply reported it. However it happened, it couldn't have happened to anyone more deserving. This whole ordeal reinforced a core truth. Never underestimate someone, especially not a veteran. And if someone who's supposed to love you criticizes your looks, remember it's their insecurity, not your flaw. Sometimes, the universe just needs a little nudge to deliver justice, especially when arrogance and greed are involved. I'm now happily shimmying into my size 10 pants, content that I didn't have to do anything wrong, just help direct knowledge to the right places. What's the most outrageous example of a boss or person trying to take advantage of you, and how did you handle it? Share your stories in the comments below. If this saga of sweet revenge inspired you, hit that like button, subscribe for more incredible true stories of justice, and share this video with anyone who believes in fighting for what's right. Until next time, stay vigilant, and remember, some battles are won not with brute force, but with meticulously placed information.
"20 years. 20 years I hadn't seen him. But there he was, standing in the back of a lecture hall, watching me, a guest lecturer at a major university. This was Jake, the man who, decades ago, tried to break my spirit by telling me I'd gained weight, then dumped me with the absurd excuse that I didn't know enough about science. Little did he know that my lack of scientific knowledge had become his undoing, and that a single, innocent phone number from my past was about to derail his future, again. This wasn't just revenge, it was a decades-long masterclass in cosmic justice. If you've ever felt the sting of betrayal, only to rise stronger and watch your tormentor face their own reckoning, then you need to subscribe right now. Hit that like button and tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying moment of karma you've ever witnessed? Get ready for a story where patience truly is a virtue, and the universe, with a little nudge, delivers the most exquisite revenge. Let's dive in. The 90s were a wild time. Mobile phones were just beginning to trickle into my country, right as I was finishing high school. My parents, bless their hearts, bought me my first phone, a bulky, second-hand Nokia. It wasn't much, but holding it, I made a silent vow, someday, I'd buy a brand new one with my own money, a symbol of my own accomplishment. Then came college, and with it, a 2-hour daily commute. I was an academic overachiever, having nabbed several district-level awards in high school. During my freshman year, the moment arrived. A nationalized bank award came through, and finally, I had enough. I walked into the store, heart pounding, and bought a shiny new Sony Ericsson K300i and a premium SIM card. It was a perfect number, easy to remember, catchy. What I couldn't have known, what no one could have predicted, was that this premium number carried with it a decade of baggage. It had been abandoned by its previous owner, a man named Bitsa. Within 3 days, my new phone started ringing. And ringing. And ringing. Is this Bitsa? We're calling for Mr. Bitsa regarding a debt. It was a relentless barrage from banks, loan companies, and every shady financial institution under the sun. This number, my pride and joy, had been Bitsa's for years. Determined to keep my carefully chosen number, I started a routine, blocking every single wrong number. It was a tedious, analog process back then, blocking was device-specific, so every time I upgraded my phone, I had to meticulously transfer a growing list of blocked numbers, a digital ledger of this phantom Bitsa's many creditors. This man, whoever he was, had become a persistent, low-level annoyance in my life. Life, as it does, moved forward. I graduated in 2009 and landed my first job. Around 2010, I was assigned to a new project. The whispers started almost immediately. This project had a notorious reputation, a wasteland of burnt-out employees, all thanks to one person. The project manager, a man simply known as Bits. I didn't know his full name for a long time, just Bits. He was a tyrannical, power-hungry individual who reveled in making our lives a living hell. Bits ruled with an iron fist. From the moment his team stepped into the office, they were barraged with emails and messages, each more urgent, more demanding than the last. He thrived on creating chaos, arbitrarily changing deadlines, demanding we work late into the night and through weekends, utterly obliterating any semblance of work-life balance. His presence loomed over every task. He insisted on micromanaging every tiny detail, yet he was notoriously quick to snatch credit for any success, no matter how small. Failures, however, were met with his infamous tirades, public berating sessions where he'd assign blame without hesitation, his face contorted in rage. His unpredictable temper kept everyone on edge, terrified of making the slightest mistake. Meetings were another tool in his arsenal of torment. He'd schedule them during lunch breaks, after hours, ensuring no one could escape his grasp. These meetings were often pointless, serving only to reinforce his dominance. His relentless stream of emails continued around the clock, each carrying a thinly veiled threat, perfection or dismissal. Under his reign, morale plummeted, and burnout soared. Yet, Bits remained oblivious, satisfied only by his complete and total control. I felt a strange, uncomfortable shame when I discovered he was from my same area, even went to the same high school, though years before me. Then, in 2012, a pivotal moment, our company merged with a parent company. Little changed personnel-wise, but infrastructure-wise, we gained Microsoft Outlook and an organizational view. That's when I saw it for the first time, his full name, staring back at me from the company hierarchy, Bitsa. The name itself was common enough, but a chilling realization dawned on me. Mobile numbers back then often had area-specific patterns. I already knew the previous owner of my phone number was from my hometown, the same area as this Bitsa. My heart pounded. Could it be? Could the man who had been a decade-long background annoyance and my current office tormentor be the same person? I had to know. I reached out to an old mentor, a wise man from my area who had coached countless high school students over the past 2 decades. Through his insights and a few carefully phrased questions, my suspicions were confirmed. It was undeniably him. Bitsa, the elusive debtor, and Bits, the tyrannical project manager, were one and the same. The years of quiet frustration against Bitsa, combined with the daily torment inflicted by Bits, coalesced into a single, burning desire for cosmic justice. This is where the revenge truly began, an elegant, multi-layered trap, years in the making. First, I went into my phone and unblocked every single number. All 150 plus of them. Before this, I averaged 5 to 6 calls a day. After unblocking, the floodgates opened. I started receiving 15 to 18 calls daily, a symphony of forgotten debts and desperate pleas. My answering strategy changed drastically. Instead of a curt wrong number, I adopted a tone of polite helpfulness. "Oh, the previous owner of this number, Bitsa?" "Yes, he changed his number some time ago. Let me give you his current number so you can update your database." And this, my friends, is where I knew I could be truly effective. I didn't just give out his personal number. I also volunteered his manager's number, adding, just in case he tries to pull something again. The fallout was epic. It was a cascade of chaos that began with a trickle and quickly became a torrential downpour. These people, banks, debt collection agencies, credit card companies, had been trying to find him for almost a decade. They had sold his debts to specialized companies whose sole purpose was to hound people until they paid. It turned out, this Bitsa had been taking loans in everyone's names, his wife, his parents, his uncles, his aunts. And he had given every single one of them my old phone number. He was evading credit card debt and loans totaling upwards of $200,000, a mind-boggling sum in our country. Apparently, he had almost 20 cases filed against him, but no one could ever find him. He thought he could walk on water, utterly untouchable. There are multiple, delicious versions of what happened at the office when his manager started receiving calls about Bitsa's colossal debts. The details are hazy, shrouded in hushed whispers and knowing glances, but the outcome was crystal clear. The project manager, the tyrant who had made our lives a living hell, the ghost from my past, was let go about 2 months later. He simply vanished from the office, as quickly and completely as his debtors had vanished from my phone. I haven't heard from him since. The sound of his name, once a source of dread and annoyance, is now synonymous with the sweet satisfaction of poetic justice. My phone, once a conduit for his past, is now blissfully silent, save for the calls that are actually meant for me. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about the culmination of years of frustration, a quiet act that finally brought a bully to his knees. It taught me that sometimes, the most powerful justice isn't about grand gestures, but about leveraging overlooked details and a bit of well-placed information. Have you ever had a moment where an old annoyance turned into your greatest weapon? Share your stories in the comments below. If this tale of long-awaited justice resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe for more incredible real-life revenge stories, and share this video with anyone who believes in the power of karma. Until next time, remember, every old debt, eventually, comes due.